Angels, it's Hailey Reese and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so excited that you are here and I do hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. Today's video is a spooky one because we are once again going to be diving into 3 true terrifying night shift experiences. Now I have family members who have worked night shift and they've actually told me that some pretty spooky stuff happens occasionally when you're working the night shift, especially if you're working the night shift alone. And these stories are absolutely chilling, so much so I will advise said family members to skip out on today's video. I've told you guys so many times here on my channel that there is nothing that scares me more than the human race at times and what some people on planet Earth are capable of. And some of these stories are so terrifying, it just further explains that fear and honestly just validates it. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think of these experiences and which one freaks you out the most. Before we get into today's video though, I would just very quickly like to thank today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Now, if you guys have been on my channel for a while, you guys would know that I've partnered up with Skillshare in the past and that I absolutely love Skillshare in my day-to-day life. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring and creative classes for anyone who loves learning. Whether you have a skill you want to learn or expand, or even if you just want to invest in yourself, Skillshare is the perfect place to start. I have taken so many classes on Skillshare, truly and wholeheartedly, and Skillshare has been my go-to anytime I want to learn something or just expand a creative or personal skill. I went to Skillshare for like when I wanted to learn how to take care of my houseplants, to like productivity classes, to creative writing classes, and right now I have a class that I am truly loving. I've currently been loving Kate Aaron's Personal Productivity 5 Exercises to Make Your Big Goal a Reality. I've only just started it not too long ago, but I'm already so invested and I already know that there are so many skills I'm going to take from this and be able to apply to my personal life to just invest in myself and continue growing the older I get. Even better, the first 1,000 of you to sign up with my link down in the description box will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So make sure that you are within the first 1,000 to sign up via my link down in my description box and make 2022 the year of growth, creativity, and more importantly, learning, because I feel like there's so much more you can always know. I always say, if you're the smartest person in the room, leave that room. Keep expanding your mind. But yeah, thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think of Skillshare. But without further ado, let's get into these terrifying night shift encounters. Story begins with a woman named Lisa. Now, Lisa was working for a family firm that was a relatively small firm, but did have an office with a storefront. There were only a couple of desks in it, and as I mentioned, there was just a small group of people. They were all family besides Lisa, who worked within this firm. Now, at this time, Lisa was 5 months pregnant with her firstborn child, and she was just over the moon. But beyond this, she felt bad that shortly she was going to have to be taking a maternity leave from the firm, as she'd been working there for a very long time and was very trusted by the family. So Lisa decided to take on extra hours and ended up working rather late more often than not, despite being pregnant and not being asked to do so. She was just constantly working. One night, Lisa was at the office fairly late, and it was around midnight when she hears a knock at the front door of the office. Now, Lisa found this to be very strange because anybody who would be coming into the office would have had a key of their own, and she just felt very uneasy about the knocking. But the knocking continued, and finally Lisa decided to open the door to see who could possibly be outside. When Lisa opened the door, she was met with a man in a gray sweatsuit who seemed a little bit confused and distraught. He asked if he could come in, and Lisa basically asked, what can I help you with? To which he hesitated and said, "Oh, I'm looking for a job here. Did you not know that there's a job posted? I wanted to come in. I was in the area. I wanted to see the office and I saw that someone was in here. So I figured I'd come in, kind of take a peek around and check it out." Now, Lisa felt very uncomfortable about this, as I think anybody would, and honestly, it probably wasn't the wisest thing to do. But after hesitating, Lisa decided, hey, they are looking for someone. Clearly, he's aware of this. Why don't I just let him in? He can take a quick peek around, kind of see what the office is about, and then he can get on his merry way. So the man enters into the office. The man starts to look around the office, and Lisa notices that he's kind of seeming to scope around as to whether or not anyone else is there. And that's when he turns to Lisa and asks her, "Are you alone here?" Lisa, reluctant to tell him, but the office space was small, so she had to, replies, "Yeah, I'm actually about to be heading out," and starts to kind of put her things in her bags to insinuate towards the man that, hey, you're overstaying your welcome, time to go. But the man just sits down and stares straight at Lisa. He then tells Lisa, "Take a seat, I have some questions about the company." Lisa tries to tell the man that it's midnight, these are not regular office hours, and that this is really not an appropriate time, could he come back tomorrow? But the man completely ignores what Lisa is saying, so Lisa awkwardly takes a seat because she's feeling rather intimidated. Lisa said at this point, she began to kind of tug on her shirt, hoping that the man wouldn't realize that she was pregnant, because she started to feel like she'd made a massive mistake in letting the man into the business. Now, at this point, Lisa does mention that she wanted to reiterate she lived in a relatively small city. There was a very low crime rate and everybody was very trusting of one another, but this story is a prime example as to why you have to be very careful in who you trust, even if you have a big heart and you believe you can trust people. The man starts to ask Lisa some very unsettling questions about her home life. Does she have a husband? Does she have children? All of these very strange things. And as he continues to ask these questions, they start to get even stranger as to, would Lisa have somebody at home waiting for her, missing her? Were they coming to get her? Did she drive? At this point, Lisa tells the man, "I need to be getting home. It's time for us to go." The man stands up, looks at Lisa, says, "Thanks for showing me around. I hope to get hired." But as they're walking out of the building, he looks back at her and says, "How far along?" This really freaked Lisa out because, as I mentioned, this man didn't know her and she tried her best to conceal her 5-month pregnant belly. At this point, a group of people wind up walking next to Lisa and the man, and Lisa rushes to her car during this window of opportunity to get away from the man. She locked up the shop, these people walked by, and she got into her car and drove away. The next day, she called her employer and asked if she'd mentioned a job opportunity to a man and mentioned that he could come by, because at one point during their conversation, this man had said, "Oh, I was told that I'd be able to come by. I was told that you were here." Again, smaller city. Lisa thought that was weird, but maybe for some reason that happened. To which the boss replied that they hadn't even listed the job opportunity yet, as they had someone close to them who was interested in the position, and that nobody had gotten any permission to go towards the office late at night, nor had anybody been aware that Lisa was in there alone. Now, you're probably wondering where this gets creepy beyond the fact that Lisa had let a stranger into the office when she was alone. Well, a week later, Lisa was watching the news when she sees an image of the man flash up on the screen saying he was back in police custody after having escaped a local prison for murder. I'm sure you could imagine the shock on Lisa's face when she realized that not only had she made the mistake of letting in a strange man late at night into the office, but that she had let in a prison escapee who had been in prison for murder. And to this day, Lisa feels as though she will never trust anybody the same ever again. She realizes that what she did was incredibly stupid, which, sorry Lisa, but in a way, if you didn't know the guy, maybe not the smartest move, but hey, we've all made mistakes. But Lisa to this day always wonders what could have happened to her, and more importantly, the danger she put her child in. It just goes to show you never know who you're talking to. I often look at the statistics of like serial killers or killers in general, and I think about the fact that like you could be living in a neighborhood where somebody is held captive within that neighborhood and you have no idea. You're walking your dogs nicely through the neighborhood, or you could have an interaction with someone who's truly a killer. I mean, think about Ted Bundy. So it's just a reminder to be safe, trust your gut, trust your intuition, and don't always be so trusting. This next encounter takes place at a fast food restaurant where a young teenager named Tim had just gotten his first job. Now, Tim was around 16 years old at the time, and he had just started working at this fast food restaurant. He hadn't been there too long, but he had a really tough home life and was really looking to make a ton of money so he could hopefully get the heck out of his house as soon as possible. Like, he was hoping to save a ton and get out as soon as he possibly could. But because of his home life, Tim was a little bit angsty. He wasn't rude by any means, he wasn't a nasty person, but he definitely had this F it kind of energy about him when it came to life. He was very much like, I'm gonna go for it, I'm gonna take the risk, what do I have to lose? Like, my life's a disaster anyways. Now on this night, Tim was working the night shift with a couple of other coworkers, and it wasn't unusual for the restaurant to be relatively busy. It was a popular fast food spot that plenty of people would come into. And on this particular evening, a man walked in and immediately was very strange. He was kind of hanging out towards the back of the lineup, waiting for the people to leave the store and waiting until he was basically the only customer in the store. Whenever they would ask the man if he wanted anything or if everything was okay, he would just stare at them and then act as though he was looking at the menu. When the man approached the register, he slowly pulls out of his pocket a gun and points it towards them, telling them to empty out the till, that he wanted the money from the till. Now, Tim was the one working the cash, and Tim says that he didn't buy it. He thought something was so off about this guy that in his gut, he was like, there's no way that's a real weapon. There's absolutely no way. So he looked the man in the eyes and said, "Sir, get out." The man looked at him and said, "You think I'm playing with you? Like, I'm going to seriously hurt you," whatever the heck he was saying, and was basically threatening them to get the cash out of the till. Again, Tim, calling the man's bluff, tells him to get out and that they're going to call the police. The man tells him if he doesn't do as he says within the next couple of seconds, he's going to heavily regret it. And that's when Tim jumps over the cash and tackles the guy and starts fighting him for the weapon. Now, others joined in and they were able to get the weapon away from the man, to which the man was held down and the police arrived. The police arrested the man and later came to talk to the employees to talk about safety and what you should and shouldn't do, but they proceeded to tell Tim and the employees that not only was it real, it was loaded, and that the man had told them he had every intention of doing what he had to do to get that money because he was desperate. And of course, this was an absolute shock to Tim, who had a reality check that sometimes calling the bluff on people isn't the best thing to do. The police actually advised them to just give the man what he wanted. That was a short one, but I think it's absolutely chilling to imagine being on night shift, calling the bluff on someone, and then finding out that your life was literally teetering on the line. I can't even imagine what not only Tim felt, but the employees felt. I mean, thank goodness he was able to get the gun away from him. I mean, 16 years old, that's crazy, but it's chilling to think of what could have happened. I do want to say I have heard of a ton of cases where people have like called the bluff on people, and then it turns out that it was just like a fake weapon and they were just trying to like call their bluff and try to get them to give them what they wanted. But I do think it's really important to note that that's not always the case, and it is so dangerous to confront somebody like that. Now, this final night shift story is absolutely freaking chilling, and I am so curious to know what you guys think of this, because I have goosebumps. I have goosebumps right now even thinking about it. So this has to do with a nurse named Amy who worked in the ICU. Now, Amy had been working in the ICU for quite some time and says that she didn't think there was much that could shock her in her position of work. She had seen it all, from A to Z of what could be brought into the ICU. And on this particular evening, she recalls that she was extremely tired. She was trying to drink as much coffee as she could, but on this night shift, she just felt like her brain was foggy and she was trying her best to stay awake. Now, this particular evening, a 17-year-old girl was brought into ICU who was in a coma. And at this point in time, it was undiagnosed as to what was wrong with her. They were running a series of tests. All that they knew was that this girl was in critical condition. Now, Amy recalls that both the girl's parents were there and they seemed very concerned about their daughter. They wanted to make sure that she was going to be okay. They were very concerned, as you would expect most parents to be. But at one point during the evening, Amy recalls that both of the parents went to go get themselves a coffee and the girl was alone in her ICU room. Amy began walking up the hallway to check on another patient that was nearby the girl's room when she looks and sees the girl without any of the machinery on her outside of her room. Now, Amy obviously feels like she's delusional, that she's past the point of tired, that she is now hallucinating, and she wipes her eyes and looks and still sees the girl there. Amy says the girl looks at her dead in the eyes and says, "My dad did it," before turning around and re-entering her ICU room. Amy says she stood in shock for 30 seconds, but then had to go check on her patient that she was on her way to check on, but immediately afterwards went to the girl's room to see what in the world had just happened. There, she found the girl still hooked up to all the machinery and in the coma still. At this point, the girl's parents had returned to the room, and Amy hadn't told a soul that she had seen the girl in the hallway because she didn't want to be sent home for hallucinating and being delusional. An hour later, the young girl would sadly pass away, but it was later determined that she had passed away from being poisoned by rat poison. Even scarier, the dad that they had seen was the girl's stepfather, who was later found guilty of poisoning her with rat poison. Now, Amy thought that she had been delusional, as I mentioned, and hallucinated the entire thing. But how would she have known that the dad did it? At this point, they weren't even looking into it at that angle. They were just trying to determine what was wrong with the young girl. And Amy knew ahead of time because the girl had told her. Amy said she never told any of her coworkers this when it came to light that that had been what had happened. And to this day, she still questions her sanity. And if it didn't come to light that the stepfather had been involved in it, she never would have believed what she had seen. Guys, how freaking crazy is that? Can you imagine? I just want to know what you guys, who's going to be stuttering because I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I truly want to know what you guys think because that is absolutely crazy. Well, you guys, those are 3 scary night shift experiences. Which one freaked you out the most? And I want to know all of your theories on them all, especially the last one. So make sure to comment down in the comment section below. If you guys want me to do a follow-up on this, maybe with some more stories, definitely let me know that in the comment section below as well. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. Once again, I would just love to thank Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. As I mentioned, the first 1,000 of you to click the link down in my description box will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. So make sure that you're within the first 1,000, and thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my content, I would seriously love it if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button, and please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until next time, I love you.